What do you guys say we kick off December with a not-so-merry Christmas horror story? This story is chilling, intense, and tragic. Viewer discretion is advised. There are some segments of this story that are very detailed and not for the faint of heart. A young girl, we'll call her Ashley, who was 12 years old, was dealing with her parents' separation. Now, Ashley, after much deliberation, decided to move in with her dad. When she arrived at her dad's, she was feeling kind of down and out about the whole ordeal with her parents. She was relieved to find that a 12-year-old girl named Lizzie lived nearby with her single mother Tanya and two siblings. The girls never grew incredibly close, but they played together some and were friends, and they wound up having the same circle of friends when they became teenagers. One day, Ashley was at Lizzie's house, and Lizzie's mom, Tanya, came home and started telling the girls about a conversation she had at work that day. Lizzie's mother had been a healthcare professional and had befriended an elderly lady through her work. That elderly lady mentioned to her in an offhand kind of way that her sister had been living in a mental health institution but had recently been released and thought she was staying near Tanya's home. Now, the two girls just laughed it off, saying, "She'll fit right in here on this block." A few days later, Lizzie, Ashley, and a few friends were walking down the block when they came across an older lady who was standing in the yard. She had no shoes, her clothes were mismatched, and she was just staring at the kids as they walked by. Ashley and the kids, a little freaked out, each one by one gave a wave and a half-hearted smile, and the lady on the lawn acknowledged each kid with a slight awkward smile in return. Until Lizzie waved. The woman's smile immediately went dark. She scowled at Lizzie with what felt like was intense hatred. Lizzie sped up her pace and was thinking to herself, "I've never met that woman. What could I have possibly done to make her so mad?" When Lizzie got back home, she told her mom about the ordeal, and her mom responded, saying, "You remember the lady from the nursing home who told us about her sister? That's her. She actually did move in a few houses down. Don't worry about it, honey. She's not quite right. Just let it go." And Lizzie did. Out of sight, out of mind. About a week later, 2 days before Christmas, one of Ashley and Lizzie's mutual friends, Rob, he was hanging out with Lizzie and her younger brother at her mother's Tanya's house. The three teens were alone at the time, and Lizzie decided to give Ashley a call and see if she wanted to come over. Now, after Ashley received that phone call from Lizzie, she went to her dad and said, "Hey Dad, I'm going to run over to Lizzie's house for a little while." She goes over to Lizzie's fairly often, and she usually doesn't even have to ask. She just has to let her dad know where she's going. But this night was different. Lizzie's dad had an uneasy feeling, and he said, "I'd prefer you to stay home tonight." Lizzie immediately rebelled. "Why? I always go to Lizzie's. She just invited me over." Ashley's dad couldn't quite put a finger on it. Something just wasn't right, and he stuck to his guns. He said, "No, you're staying here." Ashley stomped off to her room and slammed the door. Meanwhile, back at Lizzie's house, the kids were all sitting on the couch watching a movie in front of the Christmas tree when they heard a knock on the front door. Rob was not supposed to be at the girl's house at this time, and thinking it was her mother, Lizzie, in a panic, motioned Rob to jump out the window. Rob rushed out the window right as Lizzie answered the door, expecting to see her mother. Lizzie opened the door slowly, giving Rob those last few seconds he needed to get away cleanly. But it wasn't the girl's mother. It was a woman she thought she recognized. She looked familiar. She was poorly dressed with loose, mismatched clothes. Hey guys, really quick before this gets too good. If you like true scary stories and cryptid encounter stories told in an immersive story format, please drop a like, hit the subscribe button, and let me know in the comments what you thought about this story. I'd love to engage with you guys and see what you thought. Alright, let's get back to the story. This woman's hair was a mess, and she had a crazy, animalistic look in her eyes. Lizzie was stunned and couldn't get a word out for a few moments, as the woman just stared her down. Then Lizzie realized this was the crazy lady from a week before. With a shaky voice, Lizzie said, "Can I help you?" The woman stared at Lizzie for a moment, then screamed and jumped on Lizzie, viciously assaulting her. Lizzie's little brother, 9 years old, snuck out the back door and ran to the neighbor's house. And Lizzie, now alone on her back, was under a barrage of blows and scratching when she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen. To her horror, when she looked down, she could see the handle of a large knife being pulled out of her stomach and plunged back in again. Lizzie's little brother could hear his sister's screams all the way to the neighbor's house, where he had them call the police. Lizzie was trying to fight back with all her might, but she was losing strength. Every time the knife plunged in again, she felt weaker and weaker. By the time her brother made it to the neighbors and called the police, it had already been a few minutes. And then it was roughly another 10 minutes after being called that 3 police cars came to a screeching halt outside Lizzie's house, with one sliding to a stop in the yard. The officers rushed straight through the still open front door, and to their horror saw the living room covered in blood, and a bloodied woman with a distant, disconnected look in her eyes, just sitting on the couch, looking at the Christmas tree. The officers shouted, "Where's the girl?" But the woman didn't even flinch, and just began humming Silent Night, still staring at the Christmas tree. One of the officers walked over and stood the woman up and placed her in handcuffs. She was still disconnected, still humming the tune, still looking at the Christmas tree. The officers then began frantically searching the house, until one of the officers opened the door to the bathroom. He almost immediately got sick. The bathroom was covered in blood, and in the bathtub was Lizzie, and she was missing her head. All of the officers' hearts sank as they realized they were too late for Lizzie. They immediately went to the woman and asked her, "Where is the rest of Lizzie?" The woman was still disconnected, like she wasn't even there, still humming, still staring at the Christmas tree. Another officer yelled at her, "Where is the other part of Lizzie?" The woman just smiled and nodded towards the Christmas tree again. The officer then looked over towards the tree, and that's when he noticed it. A poorly wrapped package, oddly shaped, leaking a dark fluid. The officer's hands were trembling as he reached towards the package, hoping it wasn't what he thought it was. He slowly tore back the corner. And to his horror, Lizzie's green, lifeless eyes were staring back at him. Her head was wrapped and put under the tree. For reasons unknown, Ashley's father did not let her attend Lizzie's funeral. As for the crazy woman, she was sentenced and simply put back in a mental institution, and they're still trying to figure out how she was released in the first place. Thanks for watching another Dark Secrets episode, and as always, keep an open mind, and I'll see you in the next one.